I would like to call the Audit and Finance Committee meeting to order now. I'll have our majority council take attendance, please.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Willingham?
Present.
Peter?
Here.
Bergdorf?
Here.
Clay?
Here.
Grimm?
Here.
Ray-Joyce?
Here.
Lakakis? Yeah. Mayo?
Here.
And Brewski? All present, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much. We'll move forward now with the current business, and I'll have you read the
Sure.
business before us.
Item 1 is amending resolution number 262 for 2022 regarding the Board of Elections to certify its expenses regarding the 2021 election cycle. We have two speakers tonight, Board of Elections Commissioners Kathleen Donovan and Rachel Betty.
Late night tonight, huh?
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman. We are resubmitting an amended version of our 2021 certification for chargebacks that simply reflects more equitable distribution of costs associated with early voting. We decided to do it based on number of voters per municipality rather than an equal division per number of municipalities. And we felt that that was a more fair approach to take, and we did it in conjunction with advice from management and budget. So the good news is it's still charged back to municipalities.
Some of the, excuse me, some of the municipalities will see a marked increase in their share of the chargebacks, but the smaller towns will see less, which is only fair.
Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I don't know if it's a departure from the previous,
Excuse me, someone.
Crack the window?
you know, I know years ago they actually, the chargebacks were based on the assessed value of the towns and cities. Because I remember in Gilderland, when I was on the town board, we paid more than we actually cost us to have elections. But in recent years, it's been whatever the cost of the election was, that was the chargeback. Are you saying that this has changed, the system has changed?
Well, you have now the addition of early voting, right? Which presents sort of this problem because unlike election day chargeback costs, right, prior to this, which is still included in this, by the way, that was based on simply the number of poll sites per municipality and inspectors. So you paid for your own poll sites and inspectors, which by the way you still do. That's your election day costs. Now we have 9 days of early voting. So you have this additional cost. However, voters can vote anywhere at any site in the county. So it's kind of like, you know, it's not like people specifically vote at those poll sites designated for that particular municipality. Early voting, a voter can vote in any site in the county. So now we're presented with a new challenge. We have early voting costs. With services, voters from any municipality can go to any location in the county. The State Board of Elections has not advised us on this particular issue as to how divvy up the cost. We just decided that to be consistent with election day costs, which are essentially a reflection of municipal needs, right? Because it's the larger the municipality, the more poll sites you have, the more inspectors you have. So Colony and Albany will always reflect in terms of being the largest, right? And also availability of poll sites, right? That's another issue. Smaller towns, you use a town hall. There are no costs associated with that. In Gilderland, we don't have that luxury. Town hall cannot service all 30,000 plus voters, right? So when it comes to election day costs, we simply recalculated it from the previous version we submitted to be based on number of voters per municipality rather than just an equal division. Does that make sense?
Well, so like Albany is 249,000, but Colony is 109, but they're pretty close when it comes to population. So why would Albany be so much higher?
We have more poll sites. You have to understand that geographically, it's different in terms of also the way people live, right? So in the town of Colony, more people utilize their own cars for transportation. In City of Albany, people rely more heavily on public transportation. So you have to take into consideration when being able to service some neighborhoods, whether they have access to cars, whether they have access to public transportation, and whether it's walkable because they can't access either.
Okay, good. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mr. Peter?
So I'm comparing like what's on 5 to 7, not the whole amount, right? So like,
Right.
for example, the amended chargebacks, we're looking at a difference at about $17,000 for the city of Albany, and a little larger for Colony, but
Right.
probably proportionally higher amounts because those are where the poll sites are located,
Correct.
like especially, or the early voting
for-
sites.
Well, no, so it's based on basically number of voters that are enrolled.
No, I understand, but where are the early voting sites typically? The
Yeah, in
large
the
ones?
city of Albany, we have one right right in our office.
And I guess that's what I mean, like that, so
Yeah.
it sort of makes sense that the more people who are gonna vote,
Correct.
because there's the early voting sites that are there, obviously people from the surrounding areas can go because there's a highway off, or, you know, off
Right, I
or
mean,
like that, but.
you have to take those items under consideration when you're deciding these things.
Right, so we're looking at a difference of approximately for like the city of Albany, 17,000.
Right, it's a marked increase, right?
Got it, okay.
Right, Michael, does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, others first, though.
Mr.
Yeah.
Joyce?
Yeah, just curious, did the municipalities know that this is coming, or has there been any conversation yet?
Well, I mean, it's not the first year that
Right.
they've been charged back for early voting. So, no, and part of the problem is, as you know, the state meddles with elections a lot. And so, like, there's an additional primary that we were not anticipating, right, because of redistricting issues. So, yeah, we probably do have to send them a memo or reach out to them. I know I speak to supervisors that I see and kind of gently remind them, there's gonna be additional costs here. So yeah, especially this year, they're gonna see an increase that probably wouldn't have been anticipated in the budget. But frankly, Albany County doesn't get to anticipate it. These are what we call unfunded mandates, right? The state says to you, do it, we're not paying for it, and then you're stuck with it.
Can you tell me, how many polling sites, just for early voting, how many polling sites, excluding,
Yeah.
the Board of Elections?
5, yeah.
There's 5, and where are they located?
So we have, one is the Bout Firehouse.
Could you give me the municipality, please?
Well, yes, Colony. Colony has 2. The city of Albany has one in the south end, and then one like on the border between Albany, Bethlehem. So it's the firehouse on Russell Road.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about? It's like right there. It's literally, I think, on the border
Yeah.
between the upper wards and,
But it's there to service more or less, not Albany, but going the other way?
no, it's there to service anyone who
Okay,
lives
so
in,
what does it border again? Russell Road?
Bethlehem and Gilderland
yeah,
Oh, okay.
and Albany.
and New Scotland and Guilderland, yeah. So we see,
Kind of near the Northway.
yeah.
Okay, and the 5th one?
We have one in Bern,
Oh.
just that services the hill towns.
And so these are open, how many days?
Oh, and the Guilderland Public Library, sorry, we have another one there,
All right, so
9
that's
days.
6.
yeah. 9 days, yep.
Okay, so that's 9 days. And what are the hours for early voting?
Well, they vary from day to day. By law, we're required to have them open a certain amount. Some days,
Saturday and
you know,
Sundays, 9 to 5.
Oh, and then the rest of the.
Yeah,
nine
so
to
every
Monday
five.
to Wednesday is 12 to 8, and
Oh,
the
I
rest
see,
of the days are
I
9
see.
to
So
5.
it varies so that people can actually,
Mhm.
okay, all right, okay, all right.
Yeah, those are long days for us, but we're happy to do it, depending on the day.
Yes,
Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Bergdorf.
Rachel, the city of Albany went up $17,000 from 232 to 249. The town of Colony went up more than that, even though their total number before was, I think, what, 88,000?
Right, because it's based on
88.12.
voting population, and there's a larger number of voters that are, the voting population colony is going up.
So the town of Colony
Which
has more
probably
voters
reflects-
than the city of Albany?
Last I checked, I have to double check
I don't
it.
believe so,
Yeah.
and that's why, I realize the other numbers are based on direct costs, but it seems as though,
It could be based on inactive voters too. I have to go back and look at the figures
Well-
that I pulled.
this is the first time we're doing this way, is that
Right.
correct?
Yes.
And has that been communicated to the supervisors and the mayors of the,
I mean,
Or
I've
is that-
spoken to them about the fact that these charges are coming. Did we get into the specifics? No.
okay. I just, lights me, I don't understand how we could be half of what the city of Albany was, but yet bear a greater percentage of the increase of
Well, are you
town of
looking at
Colony,
the-
especially when our population is less than the city of Albany.
Well, are you looking at the total number, because, are you saying that it's less?
What we approved in July, okay, was 88.5 for the town of Colony's 2021 totals.
Right, and it was based on the equal distribution of, costs for early voting and inspectors.
When we say equal distribution, is that by voters, or
Just
what's the?
Equal distribution, meaning that it was equally divided by municipality. They were charged the same amount, each municipality, regardless of the size of municipality. And the new version is based on voting population, only for early voting costs.
Got it, so the only thing that's changing is the column for the early
Correct.
voting inspectors.
No, it's not the inspectors.
And inspectors.
The-
You see that, there's two columns, there's inspectors and there's polling site fees. And then to the right of it, see that?
Oh, so is Colony actually being penalized for being,
Larger?
no, being an early voting site if we have to pay
No.
$26,000 for inspectors, whereas the city of Albany only has to pay $22,000
No, because
for
it's
inspectors.
based on voting population, and I think when I looked at it, that's what the voting population was. I'll double check it for you. But,
I just don't understand how we pick up the brunt.
well, let's talk about redistricting. Where's the majority of the growth, for example, in the redistricting plan that you're voting on today? The majority of population growth in the county.
Town of Colony only went up a couple of thousand people in the last 10-year census.
I thought he said it was like 7%, right?
That
Or
was
something?
that was the northeastern
Oh,
part, so
okay.
that includes Cohoes, Manans.
Oh, got it.
The Village Manans, and obviously the Village.
So Paul, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that less people vote in, the town?
No, I'm trying to figure out the calculus that constructs this, because, I mean, once again, Albany's bigger than us. Albany has more polling sites than us.
When you say that Albany is larger, you're talking about
Population,
general population?
I'm talking about
And-
the
and-
We're
population
talking
of
about
the
voting,
city.
vote registered voters.
And
Voting
so-
population
and that-
is not.
I was getting to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about registered voters, okay, registered voters, then do you look at the actual numbers that vote?
No, we look at the number of enrolled voters.
So it's simply based on the number of enrolled voters,
Correct.
okay? And so, I don't know, I would agree with you, go ahead.
So would it, and I apologize if I'm missing the point on this, but it's basically saying that since early voting is technically, for better or worse, let's call it a service, right, an extra service or a help to voting, that you're splitting it up by municipalities by those who could be eligible to take on the additional or use the additional service rather than the general population as a whole, and that's where the numbers are changing?
No, I mean, because you can vote anywhere in the county.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that since you're doing it by voting population rather than general population, because the voting
Correct.
population are the ones who use the early voting.
Yes.
So they're the only ones who have access to it. So the more people who could potentially use a benefit are the ones who are paying the proportional amount.
No, that's not actually correct, because
Okay.
for example, in the bout also services Waterville, Green Island, and Cohoes.
Right. No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, but
Yeah.
if you take a look at their costs under this, you know, they're absolutely minimal.
But I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, and not to is that what we're looking at is not the actual cost of operating that, but that it's all based on a percentage, much like sales tax is based on, like a person per. This is now all based on not where it's spent, like whatever, not where the voting sites are. It's all based on the percentage of voting population divided from the whole. Is that right?
Yes.
Not necessarily the use
So
of.
the formula that's dictating this column is number of enrolled voters over total voters
By total cost.
times $87,900.
Or 586, right?
Right, and then I just looked at
Or-
the
oh, sorry
enrollment
about
per
that, yeah.
municipality and attributed it to that.
Right, so to
Because
correct.
I would agree with Paul. To me, I would think it'd be very surprising if Colony had more enrolled voters than Albany. I mean, I don't know that could be the case, but I would find it surprising.
Right, but like, based on the numbers that you have, and that's what we're going on, we're saying that we're not charging for the actual poll site, right? It's not like that. It's the it's the total cost divided by the number of eligible voters in each municipality, and that's where the formula is coming from.
So at the same time, I'm listening to both of these, ideas, excuse me. You're saying that people can vote anywhere, but but the sites are based upon where people can vote. They're more able to vote. That site that he's talking about right now covers Waterville, Green Island,
They're
and
distributed equally around the county so that the travel distance to a site is, we tried to make it as equal for each
Right.
of the areas.
And it's not so simple because you have to have a site that's willing to host for 9 days as well. And doesn't have competing interests, other events and schools.
I guess my point would be, I looked at it, and I'm not picking on anybody's community, but, Cahoots went down $4,000. Waterville went down $5,000. I didn't look at Green Island.
You're talking about over July's certification?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because there seems to be a penalty if you host.
But it's not based on hosting,
not.
Paul. It's based on. It's literally not based on hosting because
The formula is total cost times the number of enrolled voters
Right.
over
But
the number of
it has
total
nothing to do with
voters.
hosting.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the location, things like that. It's purely by number of eligible voters.
But then, why is there the inspector's cost?
I think that's the
built into
total
column?
cost divided up. It's
Yeah,
not
they-
saying there's
they
this
do
amount of
that.
inspectors in each
Right.
location.
Yeah.
And
Say that
so I get it. I was confused. Like I think I get it
29.5%
now.
of
So
all voters
It is.
in Albany.
Well, none of the
You're good,
voters,
okay.
of the voting population.
Voting population.
right. So it's a percentage of voting population, not where it is.
Well, that's,
Correct.
I'm surprised by that as well.
That, you think that it should be divvied up differently?
No, I'm surprised that there are more enrolled voters in Colony than there are in the city of Albany.
Yeah, I can double check it, but we looked at it like 2 or 3
Yeah,
times.
I mean, I'd be surprised, but not shocked.
Yeah,
It actually could. I actually could see that happening, especially with a large amount of, let's say, growth in immigrant population who can't vote and things like
Or
that.
students even.
Or students even. The population goes up, but the voting population
Goes down lower.
as a
Really does.
percentage.
In
When
Colony,
we saw
it's
that in the census data.
Yeah, but you also have, and I remember there's been legislative newsletter mailings. Albany County had the highest amount of newsletters in the state of New York for a Senate district, because primarily in the cities, there were so many single occupancy apartments where there were people of a majority age and voting. So there were actually more registered voters in the cities. So I mean, unless there's been a change in demographics.
well, there are probably more inactive voters in the cities because you have a lot of people who are sort of like transient, so to speak, right? They come here, work at the Capitol, work at the
Yep.
state, move to the suburbs.
So can I request something? I mean, we're going off the data we have, which I have no issue with, but would we be able to get a chart of how you consider
Yeah.
by demographic, like by municipality, the number of voting population, just for future reference? I think it'd be
And-
helpful. Is that fair, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair, and I'm not questioning
Yeah.
anybody's
Yeah.
integrity,
No,
I'm
no,
just
I understand.
saying on behalf of, some people are beneficiaries of the cost shift, and other people are losers, and it seems to be that the suburbs are, and the city of Albany
Right.
are absorbing a much larger portion of the increased costs of a special election, whereas and hopefully this is an aberration, but would it, let's say in 2023, we only have one primary day and one general election, okay, like normal. Do we now go back to the way that it's actual costs?
No, because you still have early voting for every election.
Okay, so, and while you're doing that, I don't think I don't know, I think there's a lot of questions, you know, and so I don't know if,
Want to table this?
yeah,
Well-
I think we do, because, it's one more thing, as you're, getting, information, I do know that, there are a lot of voters purged in the city of Albany. Okay, so
Yes.
I wanna know
Purged?
when, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was hard to hear.
Yeah, purged, okay. So I wanna know when you come up with the actual number of enrolled voters. Okay, so when does that occur? Okay, and so as far as when you do your calculations, all right? And so how many people have you purged in the city of Albany, so forth and so on. But I don't think we can do this tonight.
Sure.
I have a question that, so when, it sounds like if we're gonna get more data on this, so it sounds like the formula we have right now for the last two columns, it's the number of enrolled voters in that area over the total number of voters in our county. Have we also considered making it based on the number of actual primary voters over the total number of actual primary voters in the county? That way, these costs will be borne by who actually shows up and votes in the primary, as opposed to.
Well,
Oh, boy.
no, because that gets dangerous because
You
you,
totally
it's
change
again,
the
it's
whole
a
thing,
it's a
so.
service thing. Like
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
the choice to do, and it's an eligibility thing. It's open to everyone, but
Yeah.
some people don't want to do early
Yeah.
voting. So
Yeah.
how do you
Why would we not?
I
mean,
think you also go down a dangerous road there, because
Yeah.
then you're gonna potentially use it against a candidate.
right,
Like so-and-so is costing our municipality the cost of this election.
right.
Do you know what I mean? So just so you know, for election day, that's actually what does occur for primary costs. It's borne by the municipality itself where they're hosting that particular primary. For early voting though, because you can vote in any location in the county,
Please.
it's a little bit more difficult to kind of make that assessment.
I'd
Because
like to
by
see what
law,
the
we
numbers
still have to have a minimum number
Okay,
of early
can I-
voting sites.
Just for the sake, we already know that we gotta table this.
Well, I was gonna ask, is there anything in your time frames? I mean, talking $21,000, that's not
Make or break.
make or break.
Right.
Is there anything in your time frame that necessitates that we do this tonight as a Rule 11?
I would say it's really up to the county, because this is funds that come back to the county. So it's a
Okay.
question of your
All right.
budgetary
Can I have
issues,
a-
not ours. It doesn't come back to our department, it goes to general fund.
I got
I got a motion to table it.
Just one more question, if it's okay? Madam Chair?
Sure, please.
Okay. Voting population, by voting population, you mean registered voters. Are we clear on that?
Correct.
All right, so it's really about how many customers you serve. In an election, the registered voters are your customers. Whether they vote or not, they're your customers.
Right.
So that seems like a sensible way of doing it to me. And,
Right.
okay.
So
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I was-
I got a motion to table.
And I would second
I got a
that.
second, okay, so I'm gonna take a vote on this. All those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, yes.
Motion to close.
adjourn. All right.